Portland's summer air buzzed with the energy of Pride weekend, the streets alive with laughter, music, and the hum of a city embracing its kaleidoscope of identities. I, Ezra Caldwell, was 24, a painter with dreams bigger than my bank account, weaving through the crowd with a sketchbook tucked under my arm. My life was a canvas of half-finished ideas, but one thing was clear: I was gay, out, and unapologetic, even if my small-town roots in Idaho still whispered doubts in my quieter moments. Morris Whitaker, my straight-as-an-arrow best friend, trailed behind me, his broad shoulders cutting through the festival's chaos like a linebacker on a mission. We'd been inseparable since high school, bonded over late-night talks about everything from punk rock to existential dread. He was the guy who'd punch a bully for me in 10th grade, then spend the next hour debating whether aliens would like pizza. Morris was safe, steady, and so deeply woven into my life that I couldn't imagine it without him. But he was straight, painfully, obviously straight, and I'd spent years burying any flicker of hope that he'd ever see me differently. Today, though, something felt off. Morris had been quieter than usual, his usual banter replaced by distracted glances and half-smiles. We were at a vintage clothing stall, one of those pop-up shops with racks of retro jackets and quirky tees, when he suggested we try on some stuff. "Come on, EZ, let's have some fun," he'd said, his voice carrying a strange edge. I didn't think much of it, until we ended up in the same cramped dressing room, a flimsy curtain separating us from the world. "Ezra, you're gonna look like a wannabe rock star in that," Morris teased, holding up a leather jacket with studs that screamed 1980s hairband. His grin was back, but his eyes kept darting away, like he was wrestling with something he couldn't say. I rolled my eyes, stripping off my shirt to try it on. Says the guy who dresses like he's auditioning for a lumberjack reality show. I turned to the mirror, catching my reflection, lanky, pale, with a constellation of freckles across my chest and a faint scar from a skateboarding mishap at 16. I was comfortable in my skin, but standing half-naked in front of Morris felt exposed in a way I hadn't expected. He was rummaging through a pile of clothes, his back to me, when I started changing into the jeans. The dressing room was tiny, barely enough space for one person, let alone two. I was down to my boxers, one leg in the jeans, when the curtain flew open. Morris spun around, probably to ask me something stupid, and then he froze. Time slowed. His eyes locked onto me, wide and unblinking, like he'd just seen a ghost. My breath caught, heat rushing to my face. I expected a quick apology, a laugh, maybe a joke to break the tension. But Morris didn't move, didn't speak. He just stared, and the air between us crackled with something I couldn't name. "Morris, what the hell?" I managed, my voice shaky as I scrambled to pull the jeans up. "You gonna stand there all day, or?" "I've been lying to you," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. And to myself. My hand stopped. The jeans hung half-zipped, forgotten. "What are you talking about?" He took a step closer, the curtain swaying shut behind him. His face was a storm of emotions, fear, determination, something raw and unguarded. "Ezra, I'm not who you think I am." My heart pounded so loud I was sure he could hear it. Morris, the guy who'd dated cheerleaders, who'd never questioned his place in the world, was looking at me like I was the only thing in it. I wanted to laugh it off, to call it a prank, but the weight in his eyes pinned me in place. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely above a breath. He swallowed hard, his hands clenching at his sides. "I've been trying to figure this out for months. Maybe years. I didn't want to admit it, didn't want to mess up what we have, but I can't keep pretending I don't feel this." "Feel what?" I pressed, my mind racing. The dressing room felt smaller, the walls closing in as his words hung between us. He looked down, then back up, his blue eyes piercing. "I'm not straight, Ezra, and I think I'm in love with you." The world tilted. My knees buckled, and I grabbed the edge of the mirror to steady myself. Morris, my Morris, the guy I'd loved in secret for years, was standing there, tearing down every wall I'd built to protect my heart. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came. All I could do was stare, breathless, as the truth of his confession sank in. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't a dream. This was real, and it was terrifying. The dressing room was suffocating now, the air thick with the weight of Morris's words. I love you. 3 syllables that cracked open my world like a fault line, threatening to swallow me whole. I stood there, half-dressed, my heart hammering as I tried to process the impossible. Morris, you can't just say that. I stammered, my voice raw. You're straight. You've always been straight. You dated Emily for 2 years. I stopped, my thoughts a tangled mess. Is this some kind of crisis? Are you messing with me? His face twisted, a flash of hurt crossing his features. You think I joke about this? Ezra, I've been tearing myself apart over this for months. He ran a hand through his blonde hair, his frustration palpable. I didn't plan this. I didn't want this. But it's real, and I can't keep it in anymore. I sank onto the rickety stool in the corner, the jeans still unbuttoned, my mind reeling. Morris, my best friend since we were kids stealing snacks from his mom's pantry, was standing here telling me he loved me. Not just loved me in a way I'd never dared to imagine. I'd spent years shoving my feelings for him into a box, locking it tight to preserve our friendship. Now he was prying it open, and I didn't know whether to run or stay. Say something, he pleaded, his voice cracking. Please, EZ. I looked up, meeting his gaze. His eyes were desperate, searching, like he was afraid I'd vanish if he blinked. I don't know what to say, I admitted. This is a lot. How long have you felt this way? He hesitated, leaning against the wall as if he needed the support. I don't know. Maybe always, in some way. But it hit me hard last summer, when we were at the lake. You were laughing, sketching that stupid sunset, and I couldn't stop watching you. I told myself it was nothing, just admiration or whatever. But it wasn't. It's more. The memory of that day flooded back. Us sprawled on the dock, the water glittering. Morris teasing me about my obsession with capturing every shade of orange in the sky. I'd caught him staring then, too, but I'd brushed it off as him zoning out. Now, the pieces clicked together, and it felt like the ground was shifting beneath me. Okay, I said slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. So what now? What does this mean for us? He stepped closer, his boots scuffing the floor. I don't know. I just know I can't keep pretending I don't feel this. I don't expect you to feel the same, but... Stop. I cut him off, my heart lurching. Don't say that. You don't get to drop this on me and then act like I don't. I trailed off, my throat tight. I couldn't say it. Not yet. Not when I was still reeling from the fact that my straight best friend wasn't so straight after all. His eyes softened, a flicker of hope breaking through the fear. Ezra, do you? I stood, closing the distance between us, the air electric. I've been in love with you since we were 17, I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. I just never thought you'd feel the same. His breath hitched, and for a moment, we just stood there, inches apart, the world outside the curtain fading away. Then, slowly, he reached out, his hand brushing mine. It was tentative, like he was afraid I'd pull away. I didn't. His touch sent a jolt through me, warm and terrifying, and everything I'd ever wanted. We should probably get out of this dressing room, I said, a nervous laugh escaping me. People are going to think we're doing something scandalous. He grinned, the tension easing just a fraction. Let him think what they want. We stepped out into the festival, the noise and color crashing over us like a wave. My heart was still racing, but I felt lighter, like I'd been carrying a secret too heavy for too long. Morris stayed close, his shoulder brushing mine as we wove through the crowd. Neither of us spoke, but the silence was different now, charged, alive with possibility. We ended up at a food truck, grabbing tacos and sitting on a curb under a string of rainbow lights. The city pulsed around us, but all I could focus on was him. The way his jaw tightened when he was nervous, the way his laugh felt like home. I wanted to ask a million questions. How did this happen? What changed? What happens next? But for now, I let the moment be. So, he said after a bite, his tone casual but his eyes intense. You've been in love with me for 7 years? I choked on my taco, heat flooding my face. Don't get cocky, Whitaker. I said I was in love, not that I'm some hopeless romantic pining for you. He laughed, but there was something soft in it, something new. Good to know, because I'm kind of a mess right now, and I don't want to screw this up. You won't, I said, surprising myself with the certainty in my voice. We'll figure it out. Together. He nodded, his hand finding mine again, this time with more confidence. And as the festival lights danced above us, I realized that whatever came next, whatever challenges, doubts, or fears, we'd face them side by side. The next morning, I woke to the sound of rain tapping against my apartment window, the gray light casting shadows across my cluttered studio. My mind was still tangled in the events of last night. Morris's confession, my own reckless admission, the way his hand felt in mine. It was real, but it felt like a dream I wasn't ready to trust. I dragged myself to the kitchen, where my roommate, Lila, was already brewing coffee. She was a photographer, all sharp wit and purple hair, and she could read me like a book. "You look like you got hit by a truck," she said, sliding a mug toward me. "Spill. What happened at Pride?" I hesitated, stirring sugar into my coffee to buy time. Morris said some things. Her eyebrows shot up. "Morris, as in Mr. All-American Straight Guy? What kind of things?" I told her everything, the words tumbling out in a rush. When I finished, she whistled low. "Damn, Ezra. That's some rom-com level drama. So what's the plan? You two gonna make out in the rain and call it a day?" I groaned, burying my face in my hands. "I don't know. This is Morris. My best friend. What if this ruins everything?" She leaned back, her expression softening. "Or what if it's the best thing that ever happened to you? Look, you've been half in love with him forever. Maybe this is your shot." Her words stuck with me as I headed to the art gallery where I worked part-time, a small space in downtown Portland filled with local artists' work. Morris texted me as I was setting up a new exhibit. His message simple but heavy. "Can we talk? Meet me at the park after your shift?" My stomach twisted. Talking meant facing the reality of what we'd said, what we'd admitted. It meant risking the friendship that had been my anchor for years. But I couldn't say no, not to him. The park was quiet when I arrived, the rain reduced to a drizzle. Morris was waiting on a bench, his hoodie damp, his hands fidgeting with a coffee cup. He looked up as I approached, and the vulnerability in his eyes hit me like a punch. "Hey," I said, sitting beside him. "You okay?" He nodded, then shook his head. "I don't know, EZ. I meant everything I said last night, but I'm scared. I've never felt like this before, and I don't know how to do this." "Do what?" I asked, my voice gentle. "This," he said, gesturing between us. "Us. I've always known who I am, or I thought I did. Now I'm questioning everything, and it's messing with my head." I reached out, resting a hand on his arm. "You don't have to have it all figured out. Neither do I. But we can't go back to pretending, can we?" He looked at me, his eyes searching. "No, I don't want to." We sat in silence for a while, the rain a soft rhythm around us. Then he spoke again, his voice quieter. "My dad, he's not like your parents, EZ. He's old school. If he finds out, he'll lose it. And I don't know if I'm ready for that." My heart ached for him. My parents had been supportive when I came out, but I knew Morris's dad, a gruff, ex-military guy who valued toughness above all else. The thought of Morris facing that kind of rejection made my chest tight. "You don't have to tell him yet," I said. "Or ever, if you're not ready. But whatever happens, I'm here." He smiled, small but genuine. "You always are." We walked through the park, talking about everything and nothing. Our fears, our hopes, the way the world felt different now. By the time we parted ways, the rain had stopped, and the sky was clearing. I didn't have all the answers, but I had Morris, and that was enough for now. Days turned into weeks, and the line between friendship and something more blurred with every moment we spent together. Morris started coming to my art shows, his presence a quiet reassurance in the crowded galleries. I'd catch him watching me as I explained my paintings, his eyes holding a warmth that made my pulse race. But it wasn't all easy. There were moments of doubt, of hesitation. Morris was still grappling with his identity, and I could see the weight of it in the way he'd tense when someone asked about his dating life or when his phone buzzed with a call from his dad. I wanted to push, to ask where we stood, but I held back, afraid of breaking whatever fragile thing we were building. One night, we ended up at a dive bar with Lila and a few friends, the kind of place with sticky floors and neon signs. Morris was quieter than usual, nursing a beer while the rest of us laughed over bad karaoke. I nudged him, trying to lighten the mood. You gonna sing Sweet Caroline or what? He chuckled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Not tonight, Easy. Later, as we walked back to my apartment, he stopped under a streetlight, his face half-shadowed. I need to tell you something, he said, his voice tight. I told my sister about us. My heart skipped. What did she say? She was okay with it. Surprised, but okay. She said she always thought we had something. He paused, his jaw tight. But she warned me about Dad. Said he's been talking about family values a lot lately. I swallowed, the weight of his words settling over me. Do you want to tell him? Not yet, he said quickly. But I don't want to hide forever, either. I need time. I nodded, reaching for his hand. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. He squeezed my hand, and for a moment, the world was just us, standing in the glow of a streetlight, the city humming around us. Then he leaned in, his lips brushing mine in a kiss so soft it stole my breath. It was our first real kiss, tentative and perfect, and it felt like a promise. The kiss changed everything. It was like a door had opened, and we couldn't go back. We didn't talk about it, not directly, but the way Morris looked at me now, open, unguarded, said more than words ever could. We started stealing moments, late-night coffee runs, quiet walks along the river, his hand brushing mine in a way that felt deliberate. But the world wasn't as kind as those moments. Morris's dad called one evening while we were at my place, painting together, a new hobby he'd picked up, mostly to humor me. I could hear the tension in Morris's voice as he answered, his responses clipped. When he hung up, he was pale. He wants me to come home for the weekend, he said, staring at the canvas. Says we need to talk. About what? I asked, my stomach nodding. He shook his head. I don't know, but I have a bad feeling. I wanted to tell him not to go, to stay here where we could figure things out together. But I knew he needed to face this, whatever it was. You've got this, I said, resting a hand on his shoulder. And I'll be here when you get back. He went, and the weekend dragged on, each hour heavy with worry. When he finally returned, he looked exhausted, his eyes shadowed. He knows, he said simply, sitting on my couch. My sister told him. Not on purpose. She let something slip, and he put it together. My heart sank. What did he say? Morris's voice was flat, like he was reciting a script. He said I'm confused, that I'm throwing my life away. He wants me to move back home, get my head straight. Anger flared in my chest. That's bullshit. You're not confused. You're figuring out who you are. He looked at me, his eyes raw. What if he's right, Easy? What if I'm just lost? I knelt in front of him, taking his face in my hands. You're not lost. You're here, with me, and you're braver than you think. He leaned into my touch, and for the first time, I saw tears in his eyes. I don't want to lose you, he whispered. You won't, I promised, my voice fierce. No matter what. The weeks that followed were a tightrope walk. Morris pulled back, not from me but from the world, his usual confidence replaced by a quiet intensity. He stopped answering his dad's calls, but I could see the guilt eating at him. I tried to be his anchor, but I was scared, too. Scared that the pressure would break us before we'd even had a chance to begin. We found solace in small things, painting together, watching old movies, sharing takeout on my balcony. One night, as we sat under a blanket of stars, he turned to me, his voice soft. I want to be with you, Ezra. Really be with you. But I need to do this right. Figure out who I am, not just who I am with you. I nodded, my throat tight. I'll wait. As long as it takes. He kissed me then, deeper than before, and it felt like a vow. But the next day, he got a text from his dad. Come home, or don't come back at all. It was an ultimatum, and it broke something in Morris. He decided to go, to face his dad once and for all. I drove him to the bus station, my heart heavy. Call me if you need me, I said, gripping his hand. I will, he promised, his eyes locked on mine. I love you, Easy. I love you too, I said, the words easier now, but no less terrifying. He boarded the bus, and I watched it disappear, feeling like I was losing something I'd only just found. 3 days later, my phone rang at midnight. Morris's name lit up the screen, and my heart leapt. Hey, I answered, my voice thick with sleep and worry. You okay? I'm coming back, he said, his voice steady but raw. I told him everything. He didn't take it well, but I don't care anymore. I'm done hiding. Relief flooded me, mixed with pride. What happened? He laughed, a shaky sound. He yelled, I yelled back. Told him I love you, and I'm not ashamed of it. He kicked me out, but I feel free as for the first time in my life. I closed my eyes, tears stinging. I'm so proud of you. When he got back to Portland, I was waiting at the station. He dropped his bag and pulled me into a hug, tight and unyielding. I'm all in, he whispered. No more running. We went back to my apartment, and for the first time, we didn't hold back. We kissed, laughed, cried, and talked until dawn, laying out our fears and dreams. It wasn't perfect. There were still challenges ahead, family to face, a world that wouldn't always understand. But we had each other, and that was enough. Months later, at the next Pride Festival, we stood together, hand in hand, watching the parade. Morris was different now, stronger, surer, his smile brighter than I'd ever seen. I leaned into him, my heart full. Worth it? I asked. He looked at me, his eyes shining. Every second. And as the crowd cheered around us, I knew we'd found something rare. A love that had weathered fear, doubt, and pain, and come out stronger. We weren't just best friends anymore. We were home.